Good evening from Los Angeles, California. I'm Dr. Ryan Ava.
Across to London, and human rights researcher Azadeh Pourzand, who is at SOAS at the University of London. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24. I don't know if you heard that in the background while our correspondent there was speaking from the Iranian capital. What have you been able to parse together as far as this 40th day since the death of Mahsa Amini has gone?
Yes, as your correspondent also mentioned, it's an impressive crowd of people, not only in the birthplace of Jina Mahsa Amini Sarqes, but also in other cities in Iran, such as Esfahan, Shiraz, and Tehran. But I believe that for those of us who closely follow the situation on the ground, we expected that these resilient, courageous women and Iranian people will get set out on the streets in order to mourn and celebrate their national heroine, Jina Mahsa Amini, and to also continue to express their grievances against the government. What I have to say here, though, between mid-September until today, the protests, the strikes, and the various forms of civil disobedience in objection to the Islamic Republic did not stop, and perhaps didn't make it as much to international news. However, both resistance and also the killings and the detaining of thousands and thousands of individuals, including children, have continued ever since Mahsa's death.
That slogan, Women, Life, Freedom, what does it mean to you personally?
Well, for me, first of all, honoring the fact that it's actually a Kurdish slogan that made its way into Farsi language and into the mass protests that we see today, that's important because it comes from a highly targeted minority of the country, and one of the largest, the Kurdish minority. But also the fact that I think women are the leaders and at the forefront of this movement that some now argue has reached its, in a way, a revolutionary stage. May take long, but it's now in a way beyond protest movement. Women want dignity, equality, and freedom, and they want life, essentially, in an environment that has been so repressive, that has literally robbed life from its people. However, because of 25 plus years of reform and failed attempts to reform the system, I think many agree, and all the protesters agree, that women's rights, right to life, and a dignified life for Iranians is not possible for as long as freedom is achieved for the greater nation, and freedom is not possible at this stage for as long as the Islamic Republic is ruling the country.
You mentioned minorities being targeted. 48 hours ago, there was Iran's Tasnim news agency claiming that that unidentified gunmen had killed 2 revolutionary guards in the southeast, at the other end of the country. This is in Sistan, Baluchistan. What was your reaction when you heard that news? And again, this targeting of minorities, why? When, as you describe it, it's about dignity and women's rights at the outset.
Yes, well, it's really beyond women's rights at this point. It's about basically a nation's quest, in my opinion, for regime change. But also, I would take, things that appear on narratives that appear on things like Tasnim News, which are very clearly affiliated with the Islamic Republic, with a grain of salt. And the fact that this government has shown no willingness to for accountability, for responding to the atrocities that it has done against its people, against the minorities, against women, against the larger population for years. Like I said, I would be cautious about reading too literally into these narratives. And in terms of the minorities, well, I think because for many years, this Islamic Republic has ruled by sort of divide and rule approach, scaring those in the center, Tehran, Isfahan, Shiraz, and others, that if the minorities in the border areas, such as the Kurds, such as the Baluch, such as the Ahwazi Arabs or the Azerbaijanis, rise up, Iran will become a Syria-like scenario, disintegrated, and we will basically lose the nation, the wonderful nation that we have. I think what this movement ever since mid-September has shown is that such a scenario seems far from possibility, because people in Tehran rise up for people in Kurdistan rise up for people in Baluchistan, and so on. And so we see a sense of unity that is unprecedented, both in terms of women and men and the people of Iran, in terms of different minority groups and the center, and in terms of those inside the country, as evident in the very large protests outside the country, Iranians outside the country, such as the Berlin protest or, the protests in Canada, in Toronto.
Yeah, there was a big protest last Saturday in the German capital. Azadeh Pourzan, let's talk about that international reaction. We've had the United States' special envoy on Iran, who's been speaking to us, Robert Malley, who tells Mark Perlman of more sanctions.
We're announcing a slew of new sanctions, which are going to be aimed at leaders of the IRGC that have been directly involved in the crackdown across the country, prison officials who've been responsible, in particular the notorious Evin prison, and we're going up and down the chain, high-level officials, but also lower-level officials who've been involved in violent suppression of protesters, who may have thought that they could hide behind the anonymity, but we're going to name and shame them as well. And at the same time, we're going after those who are trying to censor and surveil the Iranian people, the Iranian protesters.
Azadeh Pourzan, do those sanctions matter to the regime?
Yes, I believe they matter. Even if, to a degree, they may be symbolic in nature, they send a very strong signal to the Islamic Republic. Not only the United States, as we see it, for example, with Canada, with other Western countries, that a threshold of tolerance has been reached really by the West in terms of tolerating the atrocities of Iran against its own people, and that Iran was given very many chances. Until recently, there was going to be another attempt at the JCPOA. And so I think the international space for the Islamic Republic is really becoming minimized by the day. This is a government that, while repressive and undemocratic, it has loved and at points successfully tried to pretend at an international level to be a legitimate government with some elements of democracy. And at this point, I think there is no mystery to the world. We always knew that, but I think that at this point, there is no mystery to the world that this is not the case, and that this is an illegitimate regime. And I think this is, in a way, a nightmare scenario for the Islamic Republic, even if they claim and pretend otherwise in their usual propaganda narratives.
Azadeh Pourzan, many thanks for speaking with us from London.
Thank you.
To support my work, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. Also, please don't forget to hit the bell notification so you wouldn't miss any of my new videos. Thanks for watching.